Nowadays, most, if not all of the racing games are simulation racers that most players use either for esport or replicating real-life racing. Newcomer would think that's the entirety of racing genre, but it isn't. There's one point in time where another type of racer dominate the market. Arcade racer. Once upon a time, those games were everywhere. So many developers came up with the most bizarre idea, whether it's kart racer, vehicular combat, or futuristic style racing. The PlayStation 1 is home to those games, and Rallycross is one of them. One of my favorite games from my childhood. Today we will talk about it. Hello to my past self. Thanks for your service, but I think I'm gonna take it from here. Rallycross is released on January 31st, 1997 for the original PlayStation, developed by Sony Interactive Studio America and published by Sony Computer Entertainment. Before I go any way further though, let me explain something. Here's a little history. The term Rallycross is derived from the motorsport with the same name. It's basically rally, but with a twist. In that sport, at least a minimum of 2 cars took part in a race. They race on a predetermined circuit, either on dirt or snow. The tracks themselves are unique though, as they contain an alternate route which is longer than the normal one, codenamed Joker Lap. It is mandatory for all drivers to use that section at least once in each race, or they will be disqualified. With that in mind, the racing itself will be much exciting. So that's basically the short history of Rallycross. No need to thank me. At its core, it behaves like a Rallycross, but if you look closer, the game also draws inspiration from Dakar Rally, which is the highest tier of rallying. Is this game Rallycross or Dakar Rally? Well, we're gonna find out anyway. Let's talk about the controls, which are very simple to learn. Hold X to accelerate, square to brake, circle to look back, and D-pad to control the car. The controls for the most part are really responsive, as the car actually responds according to your input and never do anything to ruin your experience. But when you look closer, you will find the controls to be a little sensitive, as the smallest touch on your D-pad will make the car unbalanced. The cars will be wobbling around like a jelly, and one small mishaps will make you lose control of it, especially on tracks with tight turns, which I will get to later. My advice is to slow down while navigating those areas. You will thank me later. The brake button is pretty useful for the entirety of the races, and it will be your lifesaver. By holding down the brake and the D-pad together, you can execute a drift which will be very crucial if you want to win. It can be satisfying watching your car drifts around a hairpin turn. The way of drifting always makes me happy. There's also a clutch button, but I never use it, since the brake did most of the job, so you probably don't need it anyway. Okay, I learned the controls. It's time to race. It's lights out and away we go. Oh wait, why am I not moving? What's going on? This is where the game differentiates from other arcade racers. See, in most racing games, you have to switch gears on manual transmission, whether to execute drift or switch gears up or down. But here, automatic is not exactly automatic. Every time you start a race, you will notice your gear is at neutral position, where you probably think it's not important. But when the race gets underway, you will be so wrong. By pressing the first row of shoulder button, you can change the gear from neutral to between reverse or first gear, which I thought is a neat little addition. I mean, in real life, you have to switch gears to get the car moving, am I right? Gran Turismo is known to be a real driving simulator, but this tiny detail is not included. So when I go back to this game, I was surprised at the game attempting to create some realism, which I like, but it also can be a little messy. Whenever you're stuck at a wall, you have to tap the shoulder button to switch to neutral before reaching reverse mode. I always find myself pressing once, and you guessed it, nothing happened, and ends up wasting lots of seconds trying to get back on the right way. It can be chaotic when the AI are running behind you, and I hate it when I lost a race just like that. Part of me hate it, but that was the past, and now I really enjoy this mechanic. What do y'all think? Comment below. The other important control is the rocking mechanic. No, not rocking a chair, but rocking a car. Whenever you flip your car over during a race, which often happens, not gonna lie, you can use the second row shoulder button to make your car rock back and forth to create a momentum that turns your car back onto its wheel. Which really reminds me of Dakar Rally. Whenever those drivers flip over, they have to get out of their car to turn their car back onto the actual direction of the car. Despite no one actually getting out in this game, you can still see their silhouette through the car window. At least I think they are humanoid figure. So don't worry, it's not a game about sentient car driving on their own. We haven't reached the dark future just yet. I love this mechanic, as the game wants you to do everything yourself. They won't hold your hand by giving you a reset button. You have to count on yourself, just like in real life, when no one is gonna help you. Better count on yourself instead of relying on incompetent people that backstabs you. And that explains all the controls you need to know. Pretty easy to understand. Graphic wise, they still holds up pretty well. Despite being an early 1937 release, it still looks good even by today's standard. Being able to compete with games like Ray Tracer, Toka Touring Car Championship, and of course, Midnight Run. Sony Interactive Studio knows what they are doing, and they let their experience speak the most words. Their effort never gone to waste, and it shows. The car themselves look nice as well. The polygon on the car doesn't look too shabby, regardless of which perspective you look from. All of those graphical fidelity that I mentioned can help you to be immersed within the game environment. All of your progression in Rallycross will be done in the season mode, aka championship. Win race, and win race. You know the drill. Across the championship, you will be doing 3 separate modes. Starting with normal, which is as normal as it sounds. You go through multiple races in a row with 3 other AI, and whoever wins the most points wins the title. There are 3 difficulties that change the amount of races you had to do altogether, and also changes what cars your rival will be using. Head on, where both you and one of the AI race against each other in the opposite direction. On first race, you will be going forward, and then vice versa for second race. The race uses tournament style format, which includes semi-final and final. The winner is decided by best 2 out of 3. Finish both stages and you will get the most points to proceed to the next round. It is vital to bring your top game to each races, or else you will be left behind rather quickly. Mix is a combination of the first 2 modes that I mentioned. At first it's your standard race, but then the top 2 finisher will square it off in head-on style race. Whoever wins that will get the most points and heads on to the next location. Finishing all 3 modes will unlock every tracks and all cars. Oh, and this mode as well. Don't bother. Don't even. Because this is literal hell. Hey, you thought one car is already bad enough? Well, you haven't seen the real pain yet. Here, you have to face off against 3 AI on the opposite direction. All of my attempts trying to win ends up being a failure as I'm consistently getting bombarded by those racers. Sure, you might be able to dodge them on one lap, but then the next lap comes and you bite the dust. To the point you might as well take a shot for every contact you make. The different elevation changes of the track doesn't let you see what's ahead, and by the time you seize it, it's already too late. You go this way, you got hit. You go that way, you got hit. There's no middle ground. If you're still anxious about those modes, don't worry though. The game as a whole is not that hard. If you are good at the game, then you are good at the game. Simple as that. Even on the hardest difficulty, you can dominate the race pretty easily. But that's not to say it's a cakewalk. When you are stuck behind one of them, it's another problem. As some famous person would say, catching is a thing, passing is another thing. You're often stuck behind some rival, and the biggest risk comes from trying to make a move, especially on a narrow section, that can make you drop to dead last. But also, as a certain race driver would say, if you no longer go for a gap that exists, you're no longer a racing driver. The AI aren't perfect, and they are pretty inconsistent too. Sometimes they finish every lap without any mistake, sometimes they just crash and flip everywhere. They will always be in your way, and their drunk nature can cause a big mess. Each races can be chaotic, similar to NASCAR Rumble. When you do find a gap, then you can pull away, as there's not a single rubber banding, as far as I know. It's safe to say your skills matter the most, so get good at it. I think it's time for me to do the comparison on whether this is Rallycross or Dakar. There are a total of 6 tracks ranging from easy to hard, top to bottom. Oasis, Islands, and Mines are beginners tracks. Stadium is advanced as it looks complicated due to the amount of bumps and jumping, but is actually manageable. Alpine and Lakes are considered by me as the expert track with twisty and tight corners that leaves for more room for pro management. Each track also comes with 3 variations that changes the path you can take in the race and also the condition itself. Starting with Oasis, my favorite track, a wide open desert full of bumps and dunes that allows for lots of jumping that can be very satisfying when you nailed it. You then reach this turn where you need to drift. Then you decide whether to climb or go down the road. The 2 paths cross into each other that also branches into yet another route. The top takes you up to another rocky terrain and the bottom continues with more sets, both of which ends with a splash from waterfall. This track fully embodies the spirit of Rallycross along with the Dakar due to the hill climbing part. Island, where you drive on an island surrounded by open seas. How do they get here? Then drive past an asphalt road before head onto the dirt. Make a high jump to impress the fans, which definitely will be safe standing by the edge of the island before diving into the heart of the jungle. You will be surrounded by wildlife and village in no time. Take one of the branching paths before exiting the nature with a jump towards a waterfall to finish a lap. Despite having alternate route, but the fact that you go through the nature proves this is Dakar Rally. Mines is a figure 8 track where you drive through bumpy terrain before entering the dark tunnel. Is this place even safe? You exit the tunnel to meet the big jump and finish a lap. The different version only adds more mods, which is pretty lazy. The most unique one is Alpine. You start off at the bottom of the hill, then you drive past the winding turns to reach the top before driving down the hill again. Finally, you navigate through the twisty turns to finish a lap. making the entire race feels like a grand tour. There are shortcuts in Alpine that can really change the tide of your game. By using it, you and AI can gain a huge advantage, but it's actually hard to enter since the road is slippery and you could easily miss it. Lakes, the only track that fully takes place on asphalt road, which means your car could lose all grip easily. You are greeted with two routes at the start. Red pill leads you to the twisty road. Blue pill is straight road forward. You then enter this narrow section where you can flip more easily before heading into the top to finish a lap. The entire track does not feel like Rallycross, nor Dakar. Instead, it's more of a rally stage, which reminds me of Wii Rally 2. And finally, Stadium, where I already mentioned you jump through lots of bumps which are very exhilarating. You also can race infield course filled with more jumps but no way fun as the first one. And this one where you enter the indoor section to race. Imagine paying a ticket for this race, but most of the time you can't see anything. Wouldn't you feel ripped off? This one gave me a strong vibe from Race of Champion. All the tracks got their own personality and fits well with the theme of rallying around the world, either between WRC, Dakar Rally, or other form of rallying. Each tracks are also accompanied by their respective soundtracks that hits very well with each locations. The cars themselves, I guess, can be steered towards the Dakar Rally. The cars are actually based on real-life counterparts. The buggy is Citroen ZX Rally Raid, Hot Rod is Pajero T3, Sedan is Audi Quattro, 4KA is your hatchback, and Ford F-150 is your typical truck. Each cars have different stats that affect speed and handling. The hatchback and buggy are fast but flips easily. Sedan is slow but more balanced, and hot rod being the neutral. The truck is the only car that has great speed and handling, aka ultimate reward, considering you only unlock it after finishing the game. I personally always stick with the sedan and buggy. What about you all? Comment below. And that's my full re-review on Rallycross, a really underrated racing game on PlayStation 1 that not much seems to remember. It's a fun arcade racer that never takes itself too seriously and can be enjoyed by all ages. In the end, the game got its fair share of positives and also little flaws that doesn't affect your enjoyment of this game. If my words convince you, then you can check out the game on PlayStation 3 online store at a pretty cheap price. Oh yeah, the game also got a sequel, but it's terrible anyway, so let's not talk about it. That's all I gotta say with this video. If you enjoy what you see, be sure to like, share, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so that you won't miss a thing. Comment below your opinion on this game. Have you played them? Let's have a peaceful discussion. And if you wanna follow me while I'm doing, follow me on Twitter because I'm mostly active there. Thank you for watching, and I will see you all next time.